Let's talk about early networking and how important that is. And I got to give credit to my good buddy, Travis Ference. Travis runs Progressions, Success in the Music Industry, that podcast. He and I were texting. We're part of a group thing. And so he was texting me this as a potential topic. It was originally going to be a rant on working class audio, but it just really struck a chord with me when he wrote it. And I realized, yeah, this is super important. So I'm just going to put this out here. So early networking, how I feel about that in terms of an audio career, I think it's absolutely critical. On Working Class Audio, I talk quite a bit about the early days of the Potluck Audio Conference, which actually started as the Tape-Op Conference originally, and the relationships that were formed in those conferences and the just the feeling of being a part of your tribe, so to speak, the pro audio tribe, I guess it would be. Such an amazing experience. And those friendships have persisted years after the fact. And a lot of those people that I met then are still at it today, and I still run into them. I've done business with some of them, but many of them are friends. Actually, here, I have to treat this with kid gloves because part of the metal is going to rub off. But this is a business card that, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, there we go. This is a business card I got from Steve Albini 24 years ago at a Tape-Op conference. Yeah, those are the kind of relationships that you make. And he didn't, he had no clue who I was. I was just, some guy that was just like, oh yeah, I'll take your business card. Anyways, he was very kind and very, very welcoming. The point is that the Tape-Op conference and the Potluck Audio Conference don't exist today, but NAMM and AES are there, and they've existed for, I think, longer than both of those that I mentioned. I go to NAMM every year. It's an easy, flight from Northern California to Southern California. And AES, while it's kind of been a challenge to get to New York, it's actually going to be in Long Beach in 2025. So that'll be an easy stretch to get there. So you might ask, well, what's the point of going to those things? How can that really benefit your career? I think really what it does is that it really introduces you to people who are in the pro audio industry. You forge relationships with manufacturers, which, believe it or not, I think is really valuable because you become friends with these people that move from company to company. And, they could end up being a supporter of yours in some way, shape, or form. It's not all about getting free gear. I mean, that's a side benefit that sometimes happens as a result. NFR plugins, let's be honest, that stuff happens. Or discounts on gear that you like or use because of those relationships. But also fellow audio professionals, just people like seeing you year after year after year. They just recognize, oh, there's that guy. Oh yeah, I know your face. I don't know your name. And then eventually, after 3-4 years of it, you finally meet up for a coffee and talk and discover who each other are. But those relationships, I think, are critical. So if you're just starting out in the world of audio, I highly encourage you to go to these events. I'm doing Music Expo next month in San Francisco, doing a couple presentations. And that's actually a part of it too, is you go to these things and eventually people go, oh, right, you're doing things. You should moderate a panel or be a guest on a panel or do a full blown presentation. My continual work got me a chance to do a couple presentations at AES last month in October in New York, doing an Atmos presentation and a live podcast. I've done live podcasts over the years at various events with Working Class Audio, but as an audio professional, as someone who mixes primarily, the opportunity to get to do those things really is cool. But that comes with years of cultivating those relationships, of meeting those people who finally see you and recognize what you're doing and say, oh, yeah, that person has been in it and they're working at it. And when they see that you're trying to help yourself and you're progressing and you're making an impact in some ways, they want to jump in and be a part of that. So I think that is super important. It's also important to meet other audio professionals so you can network together. I talk about on my show, I have every Friday morning, I have a mastermind call with a group of audio folks from around the world. And then we actually have a working class audio mastermind group that meets every Monday on Zoom. And most of these things are on Zoom. But those relationships that you forge long-term, I think are critical. And if you, I always refer to this show, the Blue Zones things, the Blue Zone show on Netflix with Dan Buettner. If you ever get a chance, you should watch it. I'll put a link down below. It's just really interesting. They talk about, the people that live past 100, the people that do tend to have long-term friendships and relationships like that. And that plays a part into that, the study of people who live to be 100. Now, that may not be your goal, but I'm just pointing that out as a side benefit. You could live longer, right? So, so think about it. If you are starting out, make a point of going. I know it's a little awkward in the beginning because you show up, you're like, I don't know anybody here. But you know what? You hang out, you introduce yourself. I would say bring business cards like the card I showed you. But honestly, I take my phone and I do a digital version of a business card. And then the key thing is following up after the conference. Like I just went to AES. So I pulled out all the business cards and all the contacts that I made and then replied, or not replied, but sent out emails saying, AES follow up, great to meet you, whatever it is we did, wherever we met, the circumstances, you just kind of remind them, this is who I am. I met you in this particular situation. Therefore, wanted to reconnect with you and, discuss whatever business we had discussed. It doesn't have to be too complicated. That's about it. So think about it. Think about those long-term relationships that you can build, and it takes years. So I know some of you younger folks are gonna, you're gonna want to be like, I want to build up my network really fast. Have patience, build it up. The best thing you can do if you have none of those connections is to start today. Like go to Music Expo, go to NAMM, go to AES, find the events that make sense to you. And, sometimes, it can be costly to go to these events because you've got, sometimes the flight or the drive, paying for the gas or whatever. Then you got your hotel or Airbnb. And then sometimes these things, you've got to actually pay money to get in. Most of the time with like NAMM, you can get a free pass if you keep your eyes peeled. A lot of companies are offering free passes to get in just to like the exhibits where the sponsors, or not the sponsors, but the, I guess they're sponsors. Yeah. The people that the exhibitors, like the manufacturers that show up to AES or to NAMM, they want people to come in. So they'll hand out some kind of code to get a free pass. Take advantage of that. Do that. If you get to crash on somebody's couch to keep it, low cost, do that. Or get a group of people together and rent an Airbnb and, or go in on a hotel room. And I go to these things every year with my brother from another podcast, Lid Shaw from Recording Studio Rockstars. And this year we're going to be joined by our friend, Chris Salim from Mixdown Online. And the three of us are going to, we're going to split like a suite at a hotel room, and it's just going to make it so much cheaper. And then book your flights early. That would be my advice. If you're coming from, too far outside of the location, which is typically like New York, California, book ahead of time. And then get your pass and get out there and get out of your chair, get out from behind the computer and get out and interface with some people. And I think you'll really find in a few years, if you're just starting, you'll look back on this and think, that was a good idea. I'm glad I did that. And that's really the hardest thing too, sometimes, is just getting out there and doing it. So yeah, do it. All right. That's it. Until next time. Thanks for watching.